Training and Outreach here at HipGive, and the main goal of today's webinar is to help you get ready for Giving Tuesday and to make it most you can of this great opportunity, because we know that Giving Tuesday is one of the biggest giving days of the year, and through Latinos Give on Giving Tuesday, we want to make it a really big day of giving within the Latino communities as well, for Latino causes and from Latino people. Now, before we get started into the main content, I do have a question for you. I'd like to know what best describes your interest in Latinos Give on Giving Tuesday. Can you please select one of those phrases, the one that most identifies your interest? Maybe you've already submitted a project and you're ready to promote it. Maybe you have a draft project that you're really hoping to submit soon to us on HipGive. Maybe you're not sure and you're here to find out if it makes sense for your organization. And maybe you're just here to find more about Latinos Give in general, and by all means. That's a wonderful reason to be here as well. So I'll just give you a couple more seconds. 75% of you have already voted. Thank you very much. Okay, that's nearly everybody. So let me close the poll and share the results with you. Here we go. Nearly 2/3 have a draft project that they hope to submit soon. Wonderful. We'll be glad to see you on HipGive crowdfunding. 29% not sure if you want to take part or not. Well, I hope that today you'll have the information that will help you make that decision. And for the 13% that are just here to find out more, brilliant. We're glad to have you with us. And maybe you'll be motivated and find out that this is a great opportunity for you now, or maybe the information will be useful to help your crowdfunding campaigns in the future, but you're all very welcome. So let's move to the main presentation. These are the 4 points that we want to cover today, and hopefully it will be quite an agile webinar. First of all, just reviewing the Latinos Give on Giving Tuesday concept. What is the HipGive focus on Latinos Give campaign this year? Then we'll dive into matching funds, and we'll give you the lowdown, everything you need to know about the numbers and the times, so that in your organization you can share that information with your donors and hopefully maximize your opportunities to gain useful matching funds in your campaigns. Now then we'll move to talk about branded campaigns. Giving Tuesday is a great opportunity to join this global movement. It's a kind of an open source movement with lots of logos and lots of branding that you can add to show that you're part of that campaign, and we also encourage you to use some of our Latinos Give material. So I'll be sharing the toolkit with you, and then finally we'll sum at the end with an action plan, because there's only a couple of weeks left, so you want to make sure that you're using your time wisely. As I mentioned, my name is Anita Gallagher. I lead Training and Outreach, and I'm very pleased to have on the line as well Andrea Perez. She's our project manager at HipGive, and she'll be explaining a little bit more about the Latinos Give campaign to us. So what is the concept of Latinos Give and Giving Tuesday? Well, I'm sure by now you know about Giving Tuesday. You know how important it is in the philanthropic calendar. This is a quote that I love. It just says that it's grown so much in popularity, recognition, and success to a point where nonprofits can't afford to ignore it. And that was said by Farah Trumpeter of Big DACA, a really important organization that leverages funding for nonprofits. And in case you didn't know, just going by last year's information, in the run-up to last year's Giving Tuesday, in fact, there were over 40,000 organizations in the United States that were participating in the movement. And you probably heard that President Obama declared it a National Day of Giving in his Thanksgiving speech. 1 in 8 Americans has apparently already heard of the movement and identifies what it's about. And last year, in the run-up to Giving Tuesday, 40% of millennials stated that they were intending to participate. And I'm sure that number has gone up significantly in the meantime. So it really shows you that Giving Tuesday is here to stay. It's making a big splash. And if we're not taking part, well, then we're probably losing out on that great opportunity. To put things in context, you've probably heard us mentioning on HipGive Un Día para Dar. That's the Spanish translation of Giving Tuesday. It's quite well positioned in Latin America. Last year, throughout Latin America, there were over 1,500 organizations and businesses that took part in 17 countries. And HipGive is fortunate to have close links to the Global Leadership Group, and we know and we're working closely with some of those national movements, in particular Un Día para Dar in República Dominicana, the Dominican Republic, and also in the Mexican movement. And we've just heard as well that Argentina have signed on and they'll be promoting a national movement as well, which is great news. But of course, Giving Tuesday, Un Día para Dar, it's an open movement. Anyone can join in. You don't have to have a movement going on in your country specifically if you want to take part. And in fact, that's what we've been trying to do from Hip Give, creating our own initiative, which is going to be rolled out throughout Latin America and the US. And Andrea, I hope you're on the line and you can tell us a little bit more about it, please. Andrea, can you hear me? Well, maybe she's not there, unfortunately, or maybe she's had some technical problem. Well, let me go on ahead and explain you. And Andrea, if you're able to, feel free to jump in, please. So Latinos Give is an initiative that we started up last year. Are you there, Andrea?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So, yeah, Latinos Give is an initiative that started last year on our Giving Tuesday 2015. We really wanted to highlight the narrative of Latinos giving back to their communities and their countries, and just that narrative of Latino generosity really push that forward on Giving Tuesday. And so similarly to this year, we did a big campaign where we offered matching funds, and we had a social media effort going on at the same time. And on just Giving Tuesday, we channeled over $230,000 through the Hip Give platform to over 70 nonprofit organizations that were participating on that day. And so what we wanted to do that day was not only help nonprofit organizations raise funds for their initiatives, but also help them join a larger conversation, help them join a larger social media movement. And that's why we created the hashtag Latinos Give, where we motivated people, donors, and just the overall Hip Give network to share stories on social media about how they give back. So completing the sentence, Latinos Give culture, Latinos give love, language, and all sorts of things that people would want to highlight in terms of their own personal experience. And this really helped create a lot of buzz through social media and really take the movement to the next level. Now this year, we have our lessons learned from last year, and we were able to create a lot of momentum throughout the whole year for the Latinos Give hashtag. And so this year we're even stronger. We have been gearing up the excitement around this movement for a while. We are developing partners both in the U.S. and in Latin America, including the Giving Tuesday organization who we're partnering with to launch specific country microsites in all across Latin America to also highlight initiatives such as Mexico Gives, Guatemala Gives, and things of that nature. Because part of this campaign is also helping diaspora communities in the U.S. give back to whether it is their local or communities here, or give back to their communities in their countries of origin. So it's going to be really exciting this year. We have several partners coming in to help us with spreading the word, and we want the nonprofit organizations to not only have an opportunity to raise funds, but then join us in creating a really large conversation on that day around the hashtag Latinos Give, and around that narrative of motivating Latinos to give back to their projects and their communities. And so I'll let Anita get back to the presentation. Right now you're seeing the slide of Guatemala Gives, which is one of the examples of country-specific campaigns that we're also doing across Latin America. So this is definitely going to be a transnational campaign that's going to be both in the U.S. and in several countries in Latin America. So by joining, you're really gearing up to access a much larger network.
Thanks very much, Andrea. I know that some people had difficulty hearing you, so I'm just going to recap very quickly. Andrea was sharing how we're making our Latinos Give and Giving Tuesday campaign much bigger and stronger this year on November 29th, really celebrating the power of giving in Latino communities within the U.S. and throughout Latin America. So we'll have those $20,000 in matching funds with extra prizes, both motivating you as organizations to do the best job possible in your crowdfunding campaign, and obviously motivating the donors to know that their donation is going to be worth even more this year. And as Andrea mentioned, we'll be working very hard to use content and use national promotion to have this narrative about what it means to be a Latino giver, encouraging people to share stories, but also encourage people to look for causes and projects in the places that are local to them, where they're from or where they're originally from, talking about diaspora giving. So we'll be creating these mini websites: Guatemala Gives, Mexico Gives, Puerto Rico Gives, etc. Anywhere where we have a group of projects on the platform to encourage people to be able to find local initiatives, encourage our in-country partners to be able to give that even more visibility and public relations and media coverage, and that way really create this big, strong talking point about how Latinos can be generous, give back to their communities, and show the power of being generous and creating good in this world. So that's a little recap of the whole concept of Latinos Give on Giving Tuesday. Now, I know that a lot of you will be very interested in the details about the matching funds. So I know you're all excited. It's $20,000. That's a lot of money. But hold on, I do want to invite you to read the small print. So let me go through this with you. I think it's always important that the organizations we work with understand, shall we say, the terms and conditions, because although $20,000 is a substantial amount of money, it's not an endless fund, and it will run out. It is a competition, and the organizations that are the first movers will be the ones who are able to access the matching funds. So we want to make sure that everybody knows the rules of the game, as it were, so that there's no disappointment afterwards. So initially, we're offering $20,000 in a general pot of matching funds. The contest, or these funds, will be released at midnight at the beginning of the 29th of November Eastern Time, and they will continue until those funds are depleted. So last year, and actually in previous matching funds contests throughout this year, we've been releasing the matching funds in different segments throughout the day. And really, in this case, we're putting that whole $20,000 segment, releasing it at midnight in one big segment. There's actually this time around no limit on the amount that can be matched per donation or indeed per organization. It is really more of a first come, first serve contest here, but we are making sure that only the first donation made by each donor to an organization will be matched. So if a donor gives $100 and then comes back later on in the day and gives $50, well, only that first donation will be matched. However, let me just point out that if the same donor decides to make donations to various organizations, then those could be matched, because it's the first donation by a person to a single organization that will be matched. So repeat donations to the same organization will not be matched, but a single donor donating to several different organizations could be matched. I should also point out that we do have some specific country-specific matching funds. Certainly in Guatemala and in Puerto Rico, we have special matching funds thanks to our local in-country sponsors and allies. So if you are in one of those countries, you will only be competing for those funds specifically. You will have heard about this beforehand. You'll know what I'm talking about because the people have been informed already about those funds. But I do want to make clear that if you are participating in one of those special initiatives, then you compete for those funds, and only if those funds are depleted and there happens to be general matching funds still available, then you can pass over and compete in the general funds pool as well. I hope that's clear. Let me go on and keep explaining a little bit more about the small print. Lots of people have been asking us about our fee waiver offer, shall we say, and how we calculate and how we process and transfer the money at the end of the campaigns. So just to make this a little bit clearer, at the end of your campaign, the day that your campaign finishes, depending on your start date and the duration of your particular campaign, HipGive will calculate the total number of donations that we processed on your behalf that you raised on your crowdfunding page. We will add in any matching donations, and we will take away the fees that have accrued for your crowdfunding campaign. Now, those fees are normally consist of our administration fees and our payment processor fees, but as you may have heard already, we have a special offer that if you submit your project on or before the 4th of November, which is this Friday, then we will waive the administration fee for you. So in case you don't want to have to do the math yourself, I put it out here nice and clear on the screen. If you submit on or before 4th of November, then you pay 0% for the administration fee and only 2.9%, which is our payment processor fee, plus 30 cents per transaction. So your total cost for your crowdfunding campaign will be 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction. And that's significantly lower than lots of other similar platforms, which we know charge 10%, 15% upwards. If you don't have the time, the opportunity to submit your project before the 4th of November and you still want to take part, by all means, you're very welcome. But projects submitted after the 5th of November will be subject to our normal fees. So if you have a successful project, that means if you reach the financial goal that you set in your crowdfunding campaign, then the administration fees will be 3.1%, and then we add in the payment processor fee as normal. And if for some reason you don't reach your project goal and your project is deemed unsuccessful, as it were, although of course let's remember that you will keep any money that you raise. So unsuccessful just means you didn't reach the specific goal. Doesn't mean that you had a terrible campaign by any means. But if you don't reach your goal, then the administration fees will be 6% plus the payment processor fees of 2.9% and 30 cents per transaction. So I hope that's clear. You can check on the website. There's the reference for more official information. Remember that it's just a case of uploading your documents and your project information and hitting the submit button some point on this Friday. We will be taking next week to go through the projects, to review documentation projects, approve projects, or be in touch with you about any subsequent items regarding your project. So it doesn't mean that your project has to be published. It doesn't mean that it has to be completely ready, but do press submit. Do send it to us by this Friday to give us time to begin that process with you. Now going back to the matching funds and the question of how to communicate that, because we know sometimes that many organizations are really eager to make the most of the matching funds, but they're not quite sure how to explain this to their donors. Well, we'll be producing graphics like the one that you see on the screen with the different information and the time zones. And as you'll see here, I kept a surprise for you, because as well as the $20,000, we're actually planning to have later on in the day a surprise matching funds release, which I can't reveal right now how much that will be, but it will be happening at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So just to recap, on Tuesday the 29th of November, we will be releasing the $20,000 US at midnight Eastern Coast time. Be careful, if you are in another time zone, if you're in Latin America, then probably that means that your donors will be able to start giving on Monday night, Monday, November 28th, from earlier on in the evening, which makes it really accessible for lots of organizations across lots of different regions to still make the most of the matching funds. And then later on in the day, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, or in your relative time zone, you'll find that we'll be releasing another set of matching funds. Now, like I said, we will be producing graphics, probably individual graphics per country, to help you share this information visually and within your own organization and, of course, to your audience. And if you want some ideas about how to communicate this to your donors, and also maybe internally in your organization to avoid any disappointment, because sometimes we get our hopes up and we do really hope that a very large percentage of our donations will be matched, and it turns out that we were unlucky or our donations fell just at the wrong moment during the day and there were no funds available. Well, then these are some useful tips to communicate that clearly to your audiences. So the first thing we always recommend is present the matching funds as an opportunity, not as a guarantee. You can use language that says that your donation could be doubled or might be doubled or is eligible to be doubled. Try explaining it in very simple terms, what, when, and how. We love this example from Contextos when they just wrote donations, two for one on Giving Tuesday. Always remember to include your links back to your actual campaign page on HipGive. Try including the precise times as well. You can write in a line on your emails, by donating at such and such a time, it's more likely that your donation will be matched. And always remember to identify the right times for your region, for your audience. You can also move a little bit away from talking about the money and talk about the impact that the money creates. And of course, that's the relationship at the heart of fundraising, that people want to know what change they will be able to make in this world. So you could, for example, use the phrase, your donation of $50 will allow us to do this, but if it's doubled and we receive $100, we'll also be able to do that. And finally, don't forget to communicate the urgency of the situation. Urgency is a fundraiser's best friend. So we always can put in those little words that say now, don't wait, hurry, and communicate very clearly that the matching funds will run out very fast. $20,000 is significant, but there'll be dozens of organizations fundraising on HipGive on Giving Tuesday. So make sure you get in there at the beginning of the matching funds time slot, and you can communicate that to people, asking them to make the most of this opportunity by donating at a certain time. So that's a little bit more about the matching funds, and if you have questions, like I said, I will be able to answer them at the end. I want to move on quickly to talk about branded campaigns, your Latinos Give Toolkit. We've been listening carefully to your feedback from our previous campaigns and matching funds contests, and realize the importance of you being able to show that you're part of a wider movement, a wider campaign, and make your campaign materials look professional and polished and communicate who you are, but also that you're part of something bigger. So we've put together a toolkit for you. We want to make sure that as many organizations as possible can create branding or branded campaigns, shall we say. Just to recap, this is a particularly useful definition of branding in this context. It's the process of portraying your organization in a consistent manner that generates trust and makes people more predisposed to receive your message. I really think this definition is useful in today's world because we are faced with so many different types of communications, and we're constantly being bombarded with information. And it really is the branding that makes us take notice of a piece of communication, if it's a social media post or an email or an image that we see. And if we have a positive reaction to that visual presentation, then we linger on that communication longer and are more willing to read or to go further into the message. So no matter how wonderful your message is, if it's not packaged in the right way, you may be at risk of losing the attention of the people that you want to communicate with. So that's why branding is particularly important in crowdfunding campaigns, and no more so than on Giving Tuesday. Because on one hand, you have this great opportunity to link your particular crowdfunding campaign to a global movement, a celebration of giving, where people in over 70 countries are going to be encouraged to give to causes that make a difference in the world. And on a day when there's so much talk about philanthropy, you need to work. You need to show that you're part of it, but you also need to work a little bit harder to make yourself stand out. So branding is both an opportunity and a challenge in Giving Tuesday. Lots of opportunities though. Here's just a couple of ways of examples to show how you can be creative. The wonderful thing about Giving Tuesday is that it's like an open source movement. So you can use the hashtag Giving Tuesday, you can use our hashtag LatinosGive, you can download the logos, but you can also use them and configure them in a way which communicates the essence of your organization and what's at the heart of your crowdfunding campaign. So really do have fun with it if you want, or personalize the way that you put your branding on your Giving Tuesday Latinos Give campaign. You see up there in the corner the Be More Gives More. That was one of the outstanding campaigns at the beginning of the Giving Tuesday movement, where Baltimore City rallied the troops, and in one day they raised $5 million with this slogan, Be More Gives More, on Giving Tuesday. On the right-hand side, you see Ayubi, which is one of the organizations we're working with from Guatemala. They recently put out their Save the Date promos for social media, and you'll see that they've used the hashtag Giving Tuesday. They've put in their own logo. They've actually put in the HipGive logo too. But with this little superhero making a big impact, they're putting their own stamp on identity of what their crowdfunding campaign for Giving Tuesday is going to be about. Maybe a more traditional approach you'll see in the middle is from Yo Quiero, Yo Puedo, which is actually a Mexican organization. And you can see that they just simply incorporated the Un Día para Dar logo and the Giving Tuesday logo and the date at the bottom of their communication. And then you'll also see myself estrenando, shall we say, the Latinas Give logo as a Twibbon social media profile picture. Maybe you've heard of Twibbon. It's a really useful social media app that lets you upload a small image, and then people can very easily modify their social media profile pictures to include that image. And it's a really useful way of spreading the word about your campaign, because profile pictures have such high visibility on social media nowadays. So those are some of the big concepts and why we think branding is both important and a great opportunity. Now we've produced a toolkit for you. So let me change over the screen quickly to show you the toolkit and run you through it. The link on the screen is a folder where you can download the toolkit as a PDF and actually all of the different graphics and logos that are included in it. All right. Here is the toolkit, Latinos Give Communications and Social Media Toolkit. You'll see that apart from the different about and the contents, here we go. We've put in just a couple of sections to help you out. A brief overview of Giving Tuesday, Latinos Give, some communication tools, social media tools, and a list of additional resources. So here is about Giving Tuesday, what's Latinos Give. In our communication toolkit, we put in for you an example crowdfunding mail. Hopefully this is something that you can copy-paste, insert your own text, and make it a little bit your own, but it gives you the structure of what a really concise and focused crowdfunding email could be, encouraging people to give to your campaign. There's also more general promotional email here with some tips about how else they can get involved in supporting your Latinos Give and Giving Tuesday campaign. Hopefully you'll find that useful as well. We put in an example press release because we know that although Giving Tuesday is primarily a digital campaign, Latinos Give is certainly, based around crowdfunding platform, based around digital content and social media sharing. We know that a lot of giving happens in the real world, in the non-virtual world, and it's really useful to get out there and tell the press about what you're doing as part of Giving Tuesday, as part of Latinos Give, and explain to them this concept of Latinos Give and encouraging a narrative of giving back within Latino communities. And then, of course, you can tell them about the specific project that you're crowdfunding for and what impact that has in the community. So hopefully you'll find that a useful model if you want to quickly get in touch with the press and have a professional format. And then we put in some images and social media tools. Again, if you click on these, you can download them, hopefully linking from the PDF, or they'll be separately in their file. So here's the Latinos Give banner. They can use that for Facebook, for Twitter, as an email banner. And we've created these images for social media, which are available both as GIFs with movement or as static images, and with some giving messages at the bottom. Now, as I say, Giving Tuesday, even Latinos Give, these are movements. So we really hope that you will take these ideas. Please do share them, use them as they are, show that you're part of this wider movement, but also use them to be inspired to think about what materials you could create that would share a message of Latinos Give, but even be more relevant to your specific crowdfunding campaign. So there's the images. We have also made the logos available to you. Latinos Give logo, the Un Día para Dar logo, the Giving Tuesday logo. We know that there's even more logos that you can download from the Giving Tuesday site. And in Mexico, the Mexican movement has also made available some of the specific Mexican logos from their website. Here is what I was mentioning about Twibbon. So if you want to Twibbon and search Latinos Give, you'll find that you can easily swap over your social media profile picture, and you can share that easily. Or another way to go about it is to think about how you could create your own Twibbon picture and use that to promote your particular crowdfunding campaign. And finally, at the end, here's some additional resources that will help you prepare your campaigns or share your campaigns, some useful websites. Of course, we invite you to follow us on social media. And we have a guide to preparing your campaign as well, which is available in Spanish and hopefully very soon available in English. And actually we'll be updating that as well with some really useful graphic design tools, photo editing tools, so that you can make the most of the materials that you have available to you. and create a very polished and professional campaign. Of course, that's not the only factor in why people will give to your crowdfunding campaign, but we do think it really helps give you the best shot possible at doing so. So we will try and flip back to the main presentation now. There we go. So we'll be sending out the toolkit to you in due course, and what remains to be shared with you is our recommendations for your action plan. And Giving Tuesday really is just around the corner. It's a couple of weeks away on the 29th of November. We know that you have a lot on your plate with all the other job responsibilities and activities that are going on at this time of year. So we've narrowed your checklist down, your action plan down into 3 sections, which we hope will be useful for really just structuring what you need to do between now and then. Hopefully you've already been preparing your project, that you've selected a donor-friendly project which is suitable for crowdfunding, something that will really inspire hope and happiness, inspire joyful giving at this time of the year. And we hope then that you've uploaded your documents to HipGive and you're able to submit your project. Remember that if you're able to do that by Friday the 4th of November, well then you'll be able to qualify for the administration fees waiver. Now then, after you prepare your project, the most important part of your campaign has to be the communications, your outreach, your promotion. And you'll know, and it's very frequently said, but it's useful to restate that it doesn't matter how wonderful your crowdfunding project is, it doesn't matter how useful, what a wonderful difference it will make in your community if you're able to raise those funds and you have that project published online. If no one is able to see that project, no one visits your project page. So it's up to you to drive the traffic towards your campaign page. And you can do that through a really strong communications campaign, which involves firstly identifying your audience and developing those key messages that are suitable to that audience with a really concise call to action at the end of every piece. And develop a series of branded materials for use on those different channels to encourage your audience to donate. Probably useful as well to have an editorial calendar. Just a really simple document, doesn't have to be anything fancy, it could just be in Excel or Word, but that has the days and the dates and explains which information or which communication you're going to publish or send on which day with which message. And that makes sure that you're covering your bases, sending the right message to the right person at the right time with the right frequency. And finally, this is something that you shouldn't do on your own. Giving Tuesday, Latinas Giving Tuesday is a really great opportunity to raise funds. So make sure you have your best team together to help you on the way. And try and make sure that you work with them beforehand to have a clear plan so that that outreach work is shared among different members of the team. And that in the days leading up to the 29th of November, and certainly on that day, that they're very active in sending the communications, also monitoring social media and engaging on conversations in social media, and probably manning the phones. You know what, I've been talking to a lot of organizations recently to try and find out the secrets to the success, and I would say that 9 times out of 10, they have told me that making phone calls during the day of the contest was the most effective strategy for ensuring that people who were very interested in donating actually converted into donors on that day, following through on the donation process, and also doing so at a time which was convenient and helped them gain more matching funds. So don't forget to man the phones on the day of the campaign. And then finally, even though you'll be more and more focused on communicating and driving those donations, you should also be thinking about what to do during and after Giving Tuesday. So we recommend that you have a system ready to be able to thank donors in real time. Everybody today is a little bit more used to communicating in real time. When we send messages, we expect quick responses, and the same happens with donations. So don't think that thanking your donors is something that you can do much later on after the day. You need to be doing it during the day as the donations come in, and having somebody ready to send out those thank yous in whatever format is appropriate. And then if you are lucky enough to have acquired new donors, people who haven't been in touch with your organization before, then do think of a way that you can also welcome them to the organization and make them feel part of something special, and that will be really important to being able to retain them as donors in the future. And that shows you how Giving Tuesday can make a long-term impact on your organization if you do that. And we also think it's important that you prepare communications beforehand that will enable you to share the results or the impact of the campaign in the days after Giving Tuesday. There's a lot of media attention in the run-up to Giving Tuesday about what people will do and how they will give, and there's also a lot of media expectation afterwards to know what was achieved. So you should want to be part of that story, of that narrative, by sharing the results of your particular campaign. Now, I would like to point out that it's perfectly valid, in fact it's highly recommendable, to continue fundraising on your crowdfunding campaign throughout December. There's no reason just to finish because Giving Tuesday is over. We really encourage you to think of Giving Tuesday as the beginning of your year-end crowdfunding campaign. Last year we had many organizations who crowdfunded all the way through to December 31st, quite successfully. You may want to finish your campaign earlier, but no matter what, it's recommendable that you share something on the 30th of November, on the 1st of December, right after Giving Tuesday, to just give some closure to that particular campaign and make people feel really satisfied about how they contributed, and then you can go on with the rest of your general campaign throughout December. And finally, don't forget that it's useful to have a strategy for measuring the results and learning for future campaigns. It's very difficult to do measurement and learning as an afterthought, but if you think ahead right now and look at the metrics or look at what you want to learn qualitatively or quantitatively, you can put a little bit of a structure in place to collect that information as you go along, which will make the learning and the sharing of results much more easy after the campaign is over. And of course, we hope that this will not be the first or the last of your crowdfunding campaigns, but rather one of many. So the learning and what you can work out about what to do again, what to repeat, and maybe what to avoid will be crucial to the success of your future crowdfunding campaigns. So I hope that's a useful checklist. Maybe you want to print it out and start striking off your activities as you go along, or sharing it with your team. And I also wanted to share just a list of key dates to make sure we're all on the same page about how to make the most of the HipGive platform during the month of November and December. So as we've mentioned, November the 4th is going to be the last day to submit your project if you want them to be eligible for the fee waiver. If you're unable to make that deadline, don't worry, we'll be receiving projects all the way through November. I would like to suggest that Friday, November 18th should be the last day to submit your projects generally. Now that's not a hard deadline, but it is a preferred date because we do have to review the documentation manually and personally, which gives us a great opportunity to be in touch with the organizations, and if we see any areas of opportunity, well then we like to share those too with the organizations that we work with. So if we are able to do that with a little bit of a time cushion on our hands, then that's useful. Throughout November we'll be reviewing and approving the project. Each project will start according to the start date that the organization has chosen for their particular project. We do recommend that you think about publishing your project and kicking off your campaign between the 21st and the 25th of November. That's a little bit ahead of Giving Tuesday on the 29th, but we think it's really useful because first of all it lets you familiarize yourself with the campaign giving page. You can try out making some donations. You can include the link into all of your previously designed communications that are programmed or scheduled to be going out. And it also means you can get ahead a little bit on this, what we call seed donations, or those first donations that get you off the ground in your campaign. Now, I have been using this example for a while now, but I think it still holds true, that it's important to get some donations under your wing to encourage more people to donate to your campaign. And the example that I use is a little bit like restaurants. No matter how good somebody tells you that a restaurant is and how highly it comes recommended, if you turn up at that restaurant and it's empty and there's no diners there, well then you will begin to wonder if it really is that good and if it's really worth your time and your money to go and have a meal there. And I think the same happens with crowdfunding campaigns. If we show up on the day and find that that campaign is in zeros, no matter how much our brain tells us that this is still a very worthwhile project, we have a little niggling doubt about why other people aren't also supporting it. However, if we were to show up on your Giving Tuesday campaign page on the 29th of November and see that you were already 20% or 30% towards achieving your goal, then that inspires a great deal of confidence, and it's much more likely that we're going to give more to your project and help you get over the finish line. So do think about publishing your project just a couple of days ahead of the Latinos Give contest, and that way you'll be able to take advantage of all those ways to increase the momentum around your campaign. As we mentioned then, Tuesday, November the 29th is the big day, the Latinos Give contest. That's when we'll be releasing the $20,000 in matching funds and the additional surprise funding. So that's when we encourage you to have all men on deck, really be listening, be conversing, be communicating, make your campaign as visible as you possibly can that day. After Latinos Give contest is over, we will be working hard to do all the calculations, all the summaries. We'll be in touch with you by Thursday, December the 1st to confirm how many matching funds you've been able to achieve thanks to the timing of your donations. And then depending on the finish date of each individual project, we'll be in touch during December with information about the final results of your campaign and confirming how we'll be transferring those funds to your organization. So I hope that makes sense. That's a short timeline. And that's all of the key information that I have for you today. I see that there's been lots of different questions on the panel, so bear with me as I begin to have a look through. Okay, it says from Michelle, where's the toolkit available? Let me jump up this couple of screens and you'll see the link, Michelle, to the toolkit. And we'll also be sending that out to you in email, don't worry. And you will receive a link to that on your email. And as I said, you can download it as a PDF document, but you'll also be able to download each of the individual graphics and logos in separate files. Steph asks, is there a limit on how large of a donation HipGive will match? No, as far as I've been told, the sky is the limit, and it is a kind of a winner takes all at the start because the $20,000 will be released at midnight Eastern time, and will be accessible until we run out. There's another question. What was the name of the website or app that allows people to have a temporary picture? That's called Twibbon, Twibbon. And go and investigate that. It's really easy to use, and it's quite fun as well. Mary Jo Turner asks, will you be receiving a copy? Yes. In fact, Mary, if you go to the handout section, you probably will see that there's a PDF there, and that's the presentation itself. You can try and download that right now from the handout section. And if for some reason it doesn't work, don't worry, we will be sending this out to your email to everybody who has participated in the webinar today. A couple more questions coming through. I need to ask, do you suggest sending out a series of emails before you publish the campaign? Yes, definitely. I mean, I love the idea of what IURI did, that they were sending out already a save the date. You need to be careful not to bombard people, not to tire them out with information when you're still quite a little bit out from the actual contest day. So a save the date is perfect because it's putting them in the mind that something is coming, but not asking them to do anything about it quite yet. So do send out a series of emails, but try and keep it to maybe just the day before as a reminder, and then during the day of the matching funds itself is when you want to be really actively communicating via email, but probably also via telephone and more personal ways of contacting people as well. It says, should the campaign be just one page? I'm not quite sure what you mean by campaign, Anita. Certainly when you upload your information to HipGive for your project page or your campaign page on HipGive, you'll see that that is visualized on screen as one page, but there's actually some tabs. So you can see different information about the project pitch itself, but also the team and the donors. If you're asking about should campaign communications be one page, certainly, the shorter the better. Try and find the most concise and positive, inspiring ways that you can to engage with people and show them why your project is important, how much they should give, when they should give, and the link to your project page at HipGive. Try and keep it as short and sweet as possible. Now, Marshane has a question about matching funds. She says, if donors donate during the 21st of November, the 25th of November, they are not eligible to be matched, or is it just those who donate on the 29th? Yes, you're correct. Only those who donate after midnight Eastern time on the 29th of November will be matched. My comment about encouraging earlier donations is to do with the psychology of donors. As I said, a lot of times we find that it's hard to get a project up from zero because people like to give to winning projects, and we find that once projects reach the 30, even the 40% mark towards their goal, suddenly there's a big influx of donations because people are so much more excited about their donation making a real impact and helping that organization get to the finish line on their project. So unfortunately, yes, those initial donations will not be able to be matched. Only the donations on the 29th will be matched, but I think there's still some value in encouraging those initial seed donations. Okay, Juana asks, what is your #1 tip for better communication of your campaign or project? Oh, what a difficult question, Juana. My #1 tip, I think, has got to be make me feel good. Make the donor feel like a hero. You want to find ways of explaining your project and explaining how an individual donor has an important role to play in making positive change happen. Fundraising, crowdfunding, it doesn't matter what the technology is, it's about creating an authentic relationship between a donor and a situation that needs to be changed for the better, with the people whose lives can be changed for the better through that relationship. So it's not about the money, it's certainly not about the role that the organization plays. The organization is just an intermediary. I think the best crowdfunding campaigns are the ones that build a bridge and an emotional bridge between the donor and the person whose life can change as a result of what that donation can enable. And actually I think it's one of the reasons why we see so many successful crowdfunding projects which are promoted by individual crowdfunders. You'll see there's so many platforms in the US and throughout Latin America where individuals are raising funds to help their college tuition fees, or to go a really important mission trip, or to help a relative who has had an emergency illness and needs a surgery. Lots of different reasons to crowdfund. And why individuals are able to mobilize really successful campaigns is because of our ability as individuals to empathize with other individuals. So when we are communicating as organizations about the projects that we undertake as organizations, I think it's really useful to take a step back and think how can we communicate as an individual to other individuals. So I think that would be a very long way of explaining my #1 tip for better communication of your crowdfunding campaigns. Right, I think I have been able to answer most of those questions. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch. You can send any questions to anita@hiponline.org. It's my job to help you have the most successful campaign possible. So please do get in touch. I can probably point you in the way to more of the resources that we have, which will help you understand best practice in crowdfunding campaigns. You can also follow us on social media at HitGive, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. We'll be publishing updates, we'll be sharing information, and we will of course be sharing, as I mentioned, those graphics about the times of the matching funds. We think it's really important that you are able to share the information about matching funds in your time zone, in your country, so that will be one of the things we'll be sharing as well. I have another question that's come in. Celia is asking, if a non-profit acts as a sponsor, is it able to also campaign for itself? I would like to reserve the right to come back to you with a more official answer when I consult with my colleague, Celia. But I think that the answer is yes, because although you would be acting as a fiscal sponsor for another organization, that would be, shall we say, a back-end agreement. You will have a signed agreement with that other organization about that you will receive the money for them, and you will assure the good use of that money. but they will be promoting their campaign as themselves, which means that you will also be free to promote a campaign as yourself, and there won't be a crossover of conflict in the communication, shall we say. But I promise to take that to my colleagues, and I'll email you back an answer if that's okay. Very good. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there then. Thank you very much to everyone who's taken part. I hope that those of you who are drafting your projects in HipWave will put the foot on the accelerator, get things together so that you can make the most of the Friday the 4th of November deadline and be crowdfunding with the really low commission. And if you can't for some reason make that deadline, don't worry. We'll be happy to receive your projects in the course of the next weeks. And please do be in touch if there's anything else we can do for you to help you make your Latinos Give on Giving Tuesday one of your best crowdfunding campaigns ever. Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon. I hope to see you soon.